preach.
Welcome to Whitehall, to the heart of government.
I'm Jacques Peretti, and I'm going to travel the length of Britain, from Westminster to local town halls. I'll be finding out where billions of pounds of taxpayers' cash is really going and who's policing the spending.
30,000 to 50,000, then another 100,000.
From vast projects
Could end up costing as much as 12 billion.
This is just effing obscene.
to what's happening on our streets.
It's just appalling, really is.
I'll be uncovering the growing army of hired-in experts making millions from the public purse
How I felt was, it's a racket.
and revealing their tricks.
We want to take them to what we call the Valley of Death. Are you there?
Oh my God.
I'll be uncovering secretive deals,
When we tried to challenge the council on it, they hid behind this term commercial confidentiality.
involving our cash,
Do you think it's right that a company should
Look,
make...
will you please get out of my room? The bloody lot of you.
I want to find out who's turning Britain's hardship into a business opportunity. And behind the scenes, who's really spending our billions.
I've come here to the Firth of Forth, just outside Edinburgh. I'm in search of a controversial project that reveals just how government spends our money.
The place I'm driving to is very significant because it's the location of one of the most ambitious and expensive defence projects in Britain's history.
It costs billions of pounds of public money, but getting a closer look won't be easy because it's inside this heavily guarded naval compound. It doesn't take long to get an answer.
Well, I tried to visit and I was told that it's not open to members of the public, and if I try to film it, I'll be thrown off by the police. So I think I'm going to have to try and find another way.
Even with heavy security, it's hard to conceal one of Britain's biggest spending cock-ups.
There it is, one of the two new huge aircraft carriers, the largest warship ever built in the UK. It's truly monumental. To give you an idea of scale, it is longer than the Houses of Parliament and taller than the Niagara Falls.
When these two aircraft carriers got the go-ahead in 2008, they were supposed to cost £3.6 billion. But a series of delays and mistakes means it's now £6 billion. And they're still not in service. I'm going to meet local journalist Ian Fraser, who's been digging into what's happened.
So Ian, where are we at now?
There are some experts who estimate that it could end up costing as much as 12 billion for the two carriers. But we don't...
4 times what it was supposed to cost.
Nearly 4 times.
To save money, the MOD considered scrapping the second carrier until they realised it would cost even more. Huge government projects like this often overspend. But is there a tipping point after which they're impossible to stop?
What do you think this says about, the potential of government, of whatever political persuasion to waste our money?
Well, I suppose it speaks volumes about our inability to rein in government spending. It's sort of, if even with a flagship project of this scale, things can go so badly wrong and so much money can be wasted. How many small projects actually, end up costing 4 times as much as they were originally supposed to cost, and it just, no one really bats an eyelid.
The overspend alone on these carriers could have bought us dozens of new hospitals. But I wonder how much more spending in Whitehall goes under the radar.
When Boris Johnson was mayor, he introduced these Boris bars, but he also bought 3 water cannons from the German police. They were never used and they cost the taxpayer more than £300,000. Here at the Department of Work and Pensions, they blew 34 million on an IT project, and it didn't even work. The Department of Transport took part of Richard Branson's train line off him. He took them to court, and the department lost. And it cost us, the taxpayer, £50 million.
Beyond Whitehall lies local government, and town halls are responsible for nearly a quarter of public spending. Though budgets have been cut, they still spend nearly £60 billion on everything from street cleaning to libraries. So who's keeping an eye on how they spend our cash? The answer might surprise you.
Up until last year, that building housed the Audit Commission, the watchdog that kept a check on public spending by councils. But the government got rid of it to save money.
The idea was that a new group of people would step into the breach to keep an eye on councils. Armchair auditors. Yup, that's you and me.
The government released all this data so that we could keep a check on their spending. But wading through all this stuff takes time, which most of us don't have. And so this army of armchair auditors never emerged. And this spending could now go unscrutinised.
Well, I'm going to take up the government's kind offer and become an armchair auditor myself to see what councils are up to. And I'm going to begin by looking at some ingenious ways they're finding of spending money in the name of saving it.
Okay, that's reception over there, and I'm looking for registration and nationality, which is over there.
Visitors to Brent Council's registration department are greeted by Shanice, a virtual receptionist costing £15,000.
If you are here to attend the wedding ceremony, please take a seat in the waiting room on my left. Please remember, you will need to...
I don't think I can interact with her.
General inquiry.
Pressing this button. It's kind of amazing. Can I ask a question? Do you get job satisfaction?
Maybe you are here to register a birth or death.
I'm here for none of those things. I'm here to find out if you're worth spending £15,000 on. she just waved goodbye to me.
Hello and welcome.
You know, what Shanice does is essentially the job of a sign. And you would have a sign saying marriage is this way, births that way, deaths that way. And that would sort of do the job, and you'd do it in 3 seconds. But what you do is you feel obliged to engage with her. And then you kind of weirdly get distracted by the fact she's got virtual from here up and kind of cardboard trousers that wear down. So it's all a bit odd.
I'm a little perplexed, but what do other people think?
If you are here to attend a wedding ceremony, please take a seat in the waiting room on my left.
Hi. You look a bit confused.
Yeah, because it just feels so weird. Like, is it a human being? I keep looking at her arms saying...
What do you think? Do you think she's a human being?
She's so thin. For a human being.
Oh, you're
She's
jealous.
So thin, huh?
So how does Mark Rimmer, the man responsible for Shanice, justify spending 15 grand when money is so tight?
Why did you think you needed a hologram or something other than a real person to do that job?
I think we actually did need a real person, but we couldn't afford a real person.
If you just put a sign up, that would do the same job as the job Shanice is doing. You know, a piece of plastic would cost, £2.50.
The community we have in Brent is obviously very diverse. English is not their first language for the majority of people. They do respond to spoken English, so I think a person would have been the ideal. So therefore that was the interim, was Shanice, the holographic virtual assistant. She's just great. She's one of my favourite employees.
Cash-strapped councils aren't just replacing people with holograms. Here in Staffordshire, they're raising money by cracking down on one of the great first world scourges of our time. But you have to wait until after dark to see it in action. Enforcement officers slapping fines on dog walkers who don't clear up their pet's poo. Spotted with the kind of night vision goggles usually used in a war zone. I decided to try them for myself.
So I'm sitting in a bush in Staffordshire in the middle of the night to see if I can spot persistent dog fowlers. And I think I actually spotted someone. Okay, I'm gonna confront them. I can get out of this bush.
Armed with these goggles, the council can hand out £75 on-the-spot fines to anyone not clearing up their dog's mess.
Good girl. Excuse me. I know this sounds a bit strange, but I've been watching you walking your dog through these night vision goggles.
Okay. Okay, whatever.
Are you walking a dog there?
I am.
As I spotted you with these night vision goggles that I have here. How do you think most people, most dog walkers would respond if someone like me jumped out of the bushes with one of these on and
I think you'd frighten them to death.
The council only needs to issue 5 fines to pay for the goggles. But so far, they haven't handed out a single one.
I mean, these things cost 200 quid a time. Does that sound like a good use of money?
I'm surprised they've gone that far, but hey-ho, if it works.
Though there's been no fines, there has been a 62% reduction in dog poo. So maybe these strange glasses are not a waste of money after all.
This thing, but it seems to weirdly work. I mean, the place seems to have less dog shit, and people seem genuinely to be fearful of a slightly creepy man jumping out from a bush and slapping them with a £75 fine. So even though it's collected no fines, it's sort of done the job of making the area a bit more hygienic. Maybe it works, maybe it's a decent use of money.
Budget cuts have forced councils to come up with out their schemes like the Poo Patrol that attract tabloid wrath and people like me. But the big money is being spent on something less visible to us armchair auditors. An army of professionals who've turned the cuts into a business opportunity. The management consultants.
Morning, everybody. Hands up those who...
In this school near Plymouth, management consultant Shay McConnon is working the room.
Performance is linked to high self-esteem, isn't that right?
Shay makes his living re-energising council workers, teachers and other public servants with the power of magic.
So it's like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. If I throw away 1, 2, 3, you wouldn't expect me to still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards.
I want to find out if it works or if Shay is just conjuring an illusion.
So in our relationships, we invest. So I work late. When I don't feel it working, I smile when I don't feel like smiling. And all of that investment can go for nothing. However, at a time maybe when you most need it and least expect it, guess what? It'll be there for you. Miracles happen every day.
So Shay, you're a magician, but you're also a management consultant. So how would you describe yourself?
Most of my work is in organisations, helping people to develop collaborative relationships and improves an organisation's efficiency, their productivity, their bottom line.
You see, you haven't come in with a whiteboard and said, sack everyone. You've come in with a magic wand.
I said,
it's a different approach.
Let's be gentle with each other. Let's look at this together. And how can we move forward?
Yeah.
And inside of here...
Like all consultants, Shay has a clever business plan. Once he's magicked his way into the room, he makes more money selling his very own management program.
You're driving a lovely Jag. You've not done badly for yourself, have you?
For Shay, helping the browbeaten public sector has given him an executive lifestyle.
The real fulfillment has come from being able to follow my passion. I do know it's actually making a difference to people's lives. And that's the primary driver.
After a hard day's motivational magic, there's even time for a 1970s-style management workout.
Good return.
Oh, yes. Wait.
In these times, you know, these hard-pressed times, the public sector is so squeezed. Is it really a good use of money, management consultants being brought in?
We're all about getting people's needs met at work. And of course, the consequence of that is higher levels of productivity.
Whatever you think of Shay's shtick, he's just one of thousands of consultants being parachuted into the public sector. Together, they're being paid millions by councils struggling to cope with the cuts. I'm heading to Wales to meet a fellow armchair auditor who's become alarmed by how much is being spent on consultants in her area.
Hi there.
Hi.
Is that Liz?
I am.
I'm Jack.
Hello, Jack.
Nice
How
to
are
meet
you?
you.
And you?
Liz Haynes is an independent local councillor who also runs her own catering business.
How long have you had the burger van?
We've been on site here now almost 23 years. And of course, we're award-winning.
Excellent.
Recently, Liz discovered her local council had hired a firm of consultants. They were paid £30,000 to help them find internal savings.
So you've got here some minutes from a meeting, and it's headed here Strategic Operating Model Assessment. What does that mean?
Well, it's a piece of work that the council have commissioned. My understanding is that it is a review on how to make savings in back office services.
The report was written by consultants PricewaterhouseCoopers, known as PwC. Over the following months, Liz spotted something alarming. The council were asking for more money for PwC, from £30,000 to more than £100,000.
This was a dramatic ramping up in how much they were going to get.
Absolutely.
And what did you think?
Hiring consultants to do work in times of austerity just really sits uncomfortable with me. So very concerned.
I want to find out what's really going on here, so I've arranged to meet the deputy leader of Torfaen Council, Anthony Hunt. I want to know why, when they're told to make savings, they're hiring expensive consultants to tell them how to do it.
One of the solutions that many councils are coming to is to bring in independent management consultants. And I believe you've done that here.
Yeah, that's correct. I think it's good to get an external opinion in, to have a look at how you're doing things, if you could do things more efficiently. We've made a 25% saving in the cost of senior management in the last half a dozen years. That means we've got less capacity within the organisation to do some of this transformational stuff. And so every now and again, I think it's worth having an external view in, but only if you can demonstrate that gives taxpayers value for money, I think.
But they do come up with quite a lot of gobbledygook. One of the things they think you should do is we will support and enable services to focus on delivery by providing an effective service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
just, you know, it's like a classic.
I mean, I certainly don't get fooled by gobbledygook and management speak.
Although Torfaen Council paid PwC £140,000 in total, they said it's led to significant efficiency savings.
Could I have the press office? Yeah, hi, is that the press office? Jack Peretti here from the BBC.
And it seems they're not the only local council to have paid for a PwC report.
Hi, is that the press office? I was phoning to find out a bit about some work that's been done. Would you be able to tell me now how much this report cost?
What's more, these reports have a familiar ring about them.
It's called the Operating Model Assessment. Operating Model Assessment.
Finally, I've made contact with someone who can tell me more.
Great, yeah, great. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Councillor Jacob Williams has been single-handedly investigating PwC's activities here in Pembrokeshire. He's discovered the local council paid the company £70,000 to help them find savings.
We received a report which was 180 pages long. I've got it here. It's gobbledygook, you could call it, corporate jargon.
The report's called Operating Model Assessment. What does that mean?
Well, it really, for me, sets the tone for the rest of the document. I suppose it's just looking at the council's way of operation, the way, the culture, I suppose. But the information within the report, really, some of it is so basic that you have to wonder why council officers couldn't identify this themselves.
Give me an example of the sort of thing that they uncovered in their report.
Well, some departments still fax an attachment after sending an email.
Absolutely
amazing.
anyone could basically find that out.
These sort of things, yes. I would suggest a lot of what's in here is just a blueprint where the companies would just copy and paste the name of the local authority into them.
So why are all these councils paying firms of consultants hundreds of thousands of pounds for reports that all sound the same? Industry insider and former PwC consultant John Bennett has agreed to meet me to tell me why.
So talk me through what's going on in Wales. We've got a number of reports here, and they all seem to have a similar title, which is the Operating Model Assessment. Could you tell me what that means?
Well, essentially that means that you're going in to perform a diagnosis on the organisation, an overview. Very similar to if you take your car into the garage and you get a service from a mechanic. It's a standard approach, a short piece of work. It's what's called a repeatable proposition. So it's
like a template?
Absolutely like a template. And individuals in junior grades are trained in delivering a repeatable template. And so when they go into Pembrokeshire or they go into Cardiff, they'll all be working to a specific template that you can, in effect, just put
a different council's name on the front.
Yeah, and the same methodology.
I'm amazed that all the reports I've seen, costing hundreds of thousands of pounds, are based on a template.
So how do these consultants manage to persuade all these councils to part with our cash? I'm going to meet someone who knows all the tricks of the trade.
Former consultant David Craig has years of experience persuading clients to pay big money for his services. He's going to give me a masterclass.
So David, once as a management consultant you've got your foot in the door of a government department, what do you do to get more business?
The first week or two, you haven't a clue what's going on, so you're fumbling around in the dark trying to find out what's happening. So to buy yourself time, you do a whole lot of general interviews all the way through the organisation.
Step 2, pile on the pressure.
The interviews have given you an idea of where to look for the dirt. So then you do studies in those areas. But what you're looking for is something that gives a big emotional shock. We want to take him to what we call the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death?
Yes, where he loses confidence in his people. He says, well, how can this be happening? How can my salesman not be selling? He has to feel his world has moved and he really has to do something. Because if there's no pain, he's not going to buy. So down into the Valley of Death we go.
This is a dark place.
Yes.
But for you as a management consultant, this is the boon, this is the moment. It's
pure heaven.
This is ka-ching.
Yeah, so once we've taken them into the Valley of Death, now it's time for salvation. Now we go to the sunny uplands of, it's bad, it's really bad, but don't worry, together, working together, we can save the situation. It'll only cost you 2 or 3 million, or maybe you need to buy a big computer system for another 50 million, who knows?
Oh my God. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, this wouldn't matter in a way if it was just in the private sector, but these companies are now operating in the public sector with public money.
Yes, I was at a conference of management consultants a few years ago, and one of the directors of a leading management consultancy said it's so easy to sell into the public sector because buyers are inexperienced, inconsistent, and incompetent.
Wow.
This was from the head of one of the largest consultancies that sells to the public sector. And everybody clapped and laughed.
Incredible.
So far, I've discovered that consultants are being hired to help councils find internal savings. But it doesn't end there. They're also advising on the services that affect us all. Here in Powys, cuts mean the closure of schools are being considered. So the council paid PwC to study the impact this would have on pupils' travel time. Local school governor John Milson has been studying their report.
Yep, coming.
What did PwC conclude about travel time?
They do give an example when they say that if they close 4 schools out of the 13 in the county, then the increase in average travel time for pupils in the county would be 33 seconds.
33 seconds?
Yes.
So kids who go to school in Paris, how do they get to school?
Well, the ones who can't walk to their local school, the vast majority of them will travel by council-funded bus.
And this 33-second figure that PwC have come to, added to their journey time.
Yes.
Is that based on bus journeys?
No, it's actually based on the time taken by someone to drive from the student's home address by private car to the school.
By private car?
By private car.
Right. But pupils in Paris, the majority travel to school by bus?
Yes.
So that's wrong, then?
Very wrong, yes.
I want to put PwC's findings to the test. Oliver Balch has 2 children due to attend the local secondary school. By car, it's about a 6-minute journey to the school gates. But the school's threatened with closure, which means his kids may have to travel a further 12 miles to the next one.
So, Oliver, according to PwC, if your kid's secondary school was to close down, on average, the journey to the new school should take 33 seconds.
Right, OK.
OK, does that sound? How does that sound?
Well,
you've basically got 33 seconds to get from here to Brecon.
Right, let's go.
OK, let's see how far we get. OK, go. Remember, Brecon is, what, 15 miles?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
OK, all right. Well, you're not doing bad. OK. You should be about halfway there by now. Yeah, you haven't got long. You've only got another 6 seconds to get to Brecon. Yeah.
So we'll go
Here we
straight,
go.
but
No, you've got to stop now.
Okay.
No, sorry, you've got to stop. So you've got to stop now.
Oh dear, 12 miles still to go. Looks like Oliver's kids are going to be taught in a lay-by.
So, Ollie, we've tried to put the PwC report into practice, and given what we found out, what do you think about that report?
Well, I know consultants get paid lots of money and they probably drive very fast cars, but it's just completely unrealistic. Even if you're in a Formula 1 car, you couldn't get to Brecon in the time they're suggesting. It's
33
absurd.
seconds.
33 seconds is just crazy. It's absurd.
Absolutely, no, I know.
PwC may claim that average journey times will increase by only 33 seconds, but the reality for many parents will be a much longer school run than that. But what about all the other reports that I've seen? They cost hundreds of thousands of pounds and could have much wider implications.
I mean, these reports are costing tens of thousands of pounds. You know, is that good value for money?
They're actually seen by consulting firms almost as lost leaders, because when you go into an organisation and do a diagnosis, you're often lining up a larger piece of work further down the line. And so the expression that I heard many times in large corporate consulting firms is you land and expand. You start to uncover issues in an organisation and therefore put them under pressure.
It's like a plumber coming in.
It's very similar to
It's very
similar to what you see in people experience in trades. In the car industry, they open up the bonnet of your car and suddenly they found 6 things wrong with your car when you only went in for a flat tyre.
It turns out land and expand is already happening in Wales. I've discovered 3 councils alone have paid PwC nearly £5 million. But this upfront money isn't the only issue. Something far more profound is going on. A type of contract that the consultants call risk and reward.
What a risk and reward contract means is that the consultants take a percentage from any savings they can find. In other words, they make money from the budget cuts. Profit out of austerity.
Here in West Wales, Ceredigion Council has signed just such a contract with PwC. And I want to ask Council leader Ellen Ap Gwyn about it.
One of the things you've done is to bring in outside management consultants. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, that was after an open tender exercise. PwC won that tender, and we worked in partnership with them for about 18 months. They've been very helpful in that they've helped us to analyse the basis of our budgetary processes.
So when you say they're analytical in the way they look at things, what do they actually do when they come in? How does it work?
They've held a succession of workshops with different members of staff. You know, they've been listening first and then come back and talked through possible ways of improving, so not improving necessarily, but changing and redesigning services.
Couldn't you do that yourself? I mean, because you have a lot of highly paid staff here.
We've had a reduction in our highly paid staff, quite
Right.
a substantial reduction, and we've had a change of staff as well.
So you've got, so just to get it straight, so just so I understand what's going on, so basically you've had to get rid of a sort of whole level of administration, and in order to replace that, you've brought in PricewaterhouseCoopers to do the job that those people did do.
For a short period of time, yes.
It just seems, you know, in this time of extraordinary austerity, unprecedented austerity, you know, your council spent nearly £1 million on these people coming in, and so has that been value for money? You know, for you, what do you think?
I very much hope so. That is, I mean, when you compare that to 34 million that we've had to cut, and to compare that going forward with the way that we're having to restructure, I think it is.
I spoke to a PwC insider who told me about their strategy for when they go into a council.
Well, if you speak to the ones that come here, you'll find out quite soon that they haven't had an easy ride in here. They've been challenged and challenged and challenged.
This is their strategy, right? It's called Land and Expand. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I can see through them when they come. If I don't want something, I don't have it.
Land and Expand is we get our foot in the door, and then basically we create a strategic partnership with them, and we expand the job once we...
No, they haven't, I'm afraid.
So have they landed and expanded you,
They've
Ellen?
landed, but they've been contracted. And in that I mean opposite to expand, rather than the contract.
So how long is the contract for?
It's finished. They're out, they're finished.
Could you tell me the nature of the contract that you had with them?
No, I'm sorry, that's commercial. You can't speak.
It's commercial.
It's
So
commercial.
this is public. You're a public body. This
Yes,
is
but
public
it's a
sector
commercial,
money.
I'm sorry, it's a commercial contract between council and a private body.
Okay, so there are cuts to public services to the public, and you cannot tell me, because it's commercial, the relationship with it.
Indeed.
So do you think the public don't have a right to know what the relationship with this contract
That is the legal position we are in.
You feel that you can't tell me?
That's the legal position we are in.
Okay. Could you tell me what a risk and reward contract is?
You need to look that up yourself. I'm not going any further on the contract.
Have you heard of a risk and reward
I
contract?
have, but I'm not going any further on the contract. I'm sorry.
Well, just if we don't talk about your specific contract, but just generally what a risk and reward contract is.
No, I'm not going any further on any contracts. That's it. You've had what you want from me. I think we should perhaps finish this.
Well, just one more. Just got one more question. Just one more question, Ellen. It's been said that PwC will receive 16% profit on every cut.
I'm not going to comment at all on the contract. I've already told you that. That's the end.
But the public here.
It's the end of the interview. Sorry, you're going too far now.
Well, Ellen, it's literally knowing about the 16%. Is it right or is it not?
I'm sorry, I'm not discussing the contract. I told you that.
They make 16% profit on the cuts that you make. So it's a company profiting from
I'm
the
not
cuts.
discussing anything about the contract.
Do you think it's right that a company should
Look,
make
will you
women...
please get out of my room? The bloody lot of you. I've had enough of it.
So I've just been asked to leave the building. The leader of the council has walked out of the interview very, very angry. And the thing that made her angry was me asking about the nature of the contract with PwC. She called it commercially sensitive and said she couldn't speak about it. But we're talking about huge amounts of money here that are passing to a private company. And it does seem extraordinary that I'm not even allowed to ask the question. Why is it so difficult to find out?
PwC wouldn't meet me, but they sent us this statement. We are often engaged by local authorities to help them improve their services and reduce costs in the face of continued financial pressure. It is important that our work delivers a tangible return on taxpayers' investment. We therefore work with clients to demonstrate the value and effectiveness of contracts. Our fees are often and increasingly dependent on the performance of our services, whereby we are only paid in full if we deliver the full benefits agreed at the outset. I still need some answers, so I'm meeting the man who speaks for the consultancy industry, Alan Lehman.
Could you explain to me what a risk and reward contract is?
There are more and more people in our industry who are saying to clients, what you really want to do is buy an outcome. You want to buy a result. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to share some risks. So, okay, we might take a basic fee, but on top of that, we'll be paid by the results we deliver for you.
We were in Ceredigion in Wales, and they had a risk and reward contract there, which basically delivered 16% return to the management consultants there on all the public service cuts that were being made.
Mm-hmm.
The more cuts that were made, the more money they make. Is that correct?
We all understand that savings are being looked for, and we need to improve efficiency in the public sector. And that's one of the areas where really skilled management consultancies can make a difference.
Yeah, well, you haven't answered my question. I asked whether the management consultancy firm were actually making a profit on the austerity cuts being made there because of this risk and reward contract. Is that correct or not?
Well, it means what you're doing is you're giving the consulting firm every possible incentive to deliver savings for the taxpayer, and that's, to my mind, a real benefit for the country.
How widespread are risk and reward contracts within the public sector in Britain?
It's limited, but there's a desire, certainly at the top of government, because we've spoken to them about this, to see more being done.
Do you think it's moral that a management consultancy firm are making money out of the cuts that are being made to public services in this way?
I think it's moral if the objectives of the project are moral, and if they are, I think it's absolutely right that they should be rewarded for achieving what the public sector wants to achieve.
Consultants are profiting to the tune of millions advising on public service cuts. But their involvement doesn't end there.
To make the public sector a gift that keeps giving, they've got another trick up their sleeve. And it's all down to that ultimate consultant buzzword: transformation.
If you go into any company or any council or hospital, you'll probably find they're running a so-called transformation program with expensive, completely unqualified management consultants helping them. And of course, everybody can improve, but you do not need to transform. Any organization stupid enough to buy a transformation program would employ an army of consultants for a century and cause endless disruption.
Because transformation equals starting again. It means spending more money.
Well, it means change everything. And you never need to change everything. You need to improve those things that need to be improved, and you need to guard and protect the things that are working okay.
When it comes to transformation projects, they don't come much bigger than the top-to-bottom reorganisation of the NHS in England. Conceived here in Whitehall 6 years ago.
This ambitious reorganisation of the NHS promised to be the most radical shake-up in its history.
As the government put its plans for the NHS into action, one firm of consultants were involved in meetings with officials: McKinsey. It advises governments and private companies across the world.
What people at McKinsey have in common is a desire to see things improve, whether you work in the private sector, the public sector.
Tamazin Cave has been investigating McKinsey's role during the time of the NHS reorganisation, and she's built up a dossier of revealing correspondence.
What are these conversations about? What's going on?
These are fragments of conversations. In the correspondence, you see McKinsey firing off an email to all the top of the Department of Health, all the senior officials saying, right, we're ready to start work with you, we're ready to dive in, hope we can help. You see McKinsey being involved in discussions around the new structures for the NHS. You even get them sitting in on board meetings, even to the extent where board meetings are being held in McKinsey's office.
One man who recalls the presence of McKinsey is Dr. Lawrence Buckman, who represented GPs during the NHS reorganisation.
Wherever you went to a meeting, somebody from McKinsey's was there who had written a report that appeared to be a fait accompli, and those of us who thought that we were actually going to have a say in how this was going to happen were continuously sidelined, or we were told, well, this is how it's going to be. It was always the same experience.
As the NHS was overhauled, McKinsey was employed across the organisation, and their services didn't come cheap.
Tamsin, do you have specific figures about the amount of money that McKinsey are taking from the NHS?
We know it's many millions, and then after that you look to spending data, you can see there's 800,000 here, another 500,000 there. Similarly, you can go to NHS England, they will have spending, they've spent hundreds of thousands, probably now totalling millions, and it's described as NHS England running costs, but that's going to McKinsey.
We asked McKinsey about their work in the NHS, and they said, like other consultancies, McKinsey & Company has provided advice to different parts of the NHS, improving patient care and the management of resources. Our work is the result of competitive public sector procurement processes. McKinsey aren't the only consultants being paid by the NHS. David Oliver is a doctor who's uncovered how much has been spent on management consultants across the NHS.
In 2013, I put a Freedom of Information request into the Department of Health, asking them how much management consultancy spend had increased during the time of the coalition government. What the Freedom of Information request showed is that consultancy spend had doubled within the first 3 years of the coalition government, nearly doubled to £607 million, and I dare say it's increased beyond that since that time.
I mean, if that was money spent within the NHS, what could that do?
Well, £600 million would run a couple of medium-sized hospitals for a year, for instance. It would increase the funding for out-of-hours care by about 30%.
When you found out what you found out, how did you feel?
Well, I wasn't surprised. I could see with my own eyes what was going on around the place, and I'm afraid how I felt was, it's a racket. And it's still how I feel now, really.
The management consultants may have cashed in from the NHS reorganisation, but has it helped deliver a better service?
So we've had years of upheaval, billions spent on reforms, management consultants have earned a fortune from it. Have we ended up with a better system?
No. We've ended up with a system that is more fragmented, more rushed, under much greater pressure, is unattractive for people to work in, and that patients are getting a less good deal than they were before the reform started.
Dr. Buckman's just one of many experts critical of the NHS reorganisation, while the government says they're putting patient care at the heart of the NHS. But with management consultants now working right across our town halls and hospitals, just how far has their influence spread?
Welcome to Whitehall, to the heart of government, where they decide how to spend your money.
Most of the money that pays for our public services ends up here, where it's divvied up among government departments.
On your right is 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives. And right next door, the Cabinet Office, who handle around 2.8 billion every year on things like MI5 and MI6. On your right, the Foreign Office, who spend 1.9 billion of our money on diplomats and embassies.
But billions of pounds of taxpayers' money is also paid to private companies. Some of them began as consultants, but now they've gone from advising our public services to actually running them.
If you could turn to your left, ladies and gentlemen, That anonymous building is 71 Victoria Street, the offices of Capita.
Capita runs lots of public IT and admin contracts. In return, it receives more than £1 billion a year of our money.
We're just passing the offices of G4S. They run everything from prisons to detention centres. Tucked just up here between these two buildings at the top of Victoria Street are the offices of Serco.
In return for running everything from Boris bikes to RAF bases, Serco is paid £1.8 billion. In total, these three outsourcing giants receive £3.5 billion of public money. Considering how much we give them, it's strange we know so little about them.
Who is this person?
That's Queen Elizabeth.
That is the Queen. That's Her Royal Majesty the Queen.
How much money do you think you and I give her per year, per person?
£2 per person. £200.
Whoa.
£1 per person, yeah.
£1 per person.
Yeah, we
£2, £1.
Yeah. 0 point something p.
Oh wow. Okay, that's it's actually 56p.
Oh,
56p. That's pretty good.
Good bargain.
You think that's good value for money? Do you know who these two men are? Have you ever seen them before?
These are the bosses of Serco and Capita.
No.
Have you ever seen them before?
I haven't, no.
Okay.
I want to see if anyone can guess how much of our money goes to the companies they run.
I'm guessing it's going to be a bit more.
I'll assume like 30p.
We go £5 here?
£5. It's closer to £50.
Is it actually?
Yeah?
Shall I tell you?
Is it up to £1?
It's nearly £50.
What?
What do they do? Why do they get that money?
We pay the Queen, as you said, 50p, which doesn't seem that bad because we all love her and everything, but like £50, that's like a weekly shot.
Since 2010, the number of our services run by private firms has doubled. That means 1 in every £6 of taxpayers' money goes to these companies.
In return, we expect efficient, well-run services, but to local people, the results can often seem bizarre.
This is the first time I've seen urban arboreal vandalism in action. This is just terrible. Absolutely. Yeah. Flipping great work.
It's 6 a.m. and I'm in Sheffield, outside a depot belonging to a company called Amy. 4 years ago, they were given a £2 billion contract to improve the city's roads, including looking after the 30,000 trees lining the streets. Amy have since felled more than 3,000 trees they say are dead, diseased or dangerous. But protesters think otherwise.
Basically, Dave and Helen and the other protesters are staking out the chipping company who are going to be felling the trees this morning. And they've been doing this for a number of weeks now. And basically, it's a kind of game of cat and mouse. They're waiting to see when they leave, which gate they leave from, and then they're going to follow them to the road where they're going to cut down the trees and try and prevent it happening.
Let's go and have a quick recce then, Chris, and find out what's happening the other end.
So, Dave, what's going on?
We've got to go up to Bannerdale Road.
Yeah.
Because there is only one person guarding the tree we think they'll come for next.
The protesters have been tipped off that felling crews are planning a dawn raid on a nearby street.
Now, this is where we were yesterday. The tree was taken down, is behind this barrier here. You'll see the stump that's left.
Wow.
Perfectly healthy tree.
Oh,
One gone here yesterday.
I was standing by that tree and they carried on cutting it down.
Many locals woke up to see their trees gone.
It just breaks my heart. How can it be right to fell a beautiful, healthy tree? It's just appalling. Really is dreadful.
This time, the protesters are one step ahead of the felling crews.
Now, this is a tree in question.
The tree they're guarding is due to be removed because Amy says it's causing structural damage. But Dave disagrees.
The curb edge, straight.
Yeah.
There's no damage to the boundary wall. There's really minimal damage to the pavement.
Yeah. Sheffield Council say residents are consulted before a tree is removed. But protesters say it's cheaper to chop the trees down than have to work around them. In other words, fewer trees equals more money.
It makes absolutely no sense to be chopping down highway trees at the rate they're doing. It's absolutely unsustainable. It has to stop.
Amy wouldn't meet me, but said in a statement, "Our aim is to create a sustainable legacy of healthy, diverse trees, while ensuring the safety of highway users and properties." In May, the High Court found in favour of the council, reinforcing its legal duty to keep the highway in good repair. Across the country and the political spectrum, the value of outsourcing is being questioned. Nowhere is that more true than Birmingham, where the council signed an unusually large deal with Capita. Birmingham is Europe's largest council, and the outsourcing deal it agreed with Capita is one of the biggest in the UK, involving over £1 billion of public money. The council agreed to let Capita handle its IT and back office operations through a joint venture called Service Birmingham. But the deal was shrouded in secrecy. Professor David Bailey, another pesky armchair auditor, has been trying to uncover the truth. This joint venture, which Capita was providing all these services, how much was it supposed to be costing?
I think the initial view, talking to people that were kind of around at the time, was they were expecting it to be of the order of 50 to 60 million pounds a year. Now, it's difficult in the sense that over time more elements were added to the contract, so the costs inevitably went up. But at its peak, it was costing something like 140 million pounds a year. So it's still over 100 million pounds a year for the last figures that we have, of which Capita has been making a profit of over, I think, 20 million in total. So it's a very lucrative business for them still.
I looked into this a bit myself, and it seems as though £338,000 a day in Birmingham it was being spent on simply backroom administration and IT per day.
The spend on IT through Service Birmingham by the City Council ran at over 10% of the entire controllable budget of the organisation. Now, that's a huge amount. You look at most organisations around the world and what they spend on IT, it might be 5%. This is over 10%.
I mean, given that this is public money that's being spent, why has it been so difficult for you to get answers?
I think that's been one of the major issues for me. This is very, very opaque. And whenever we tried to challenge the council on it, they hid behind this term commercial confidentiality.
I mean, whenever pertinent questions are actually asked, commercial confidentiality is the phrase that's always brought up to kind of protect it. And that, in a way, demonstrates how utterly murky the relationship between these companies and councils is. I mean, it's totally impossible to work out what's really going on.
If we can't see how 10% of the council's budget is being spent because it's covered by a contract we can't see, how are we able to judge whether or not public money is being spent well? So there's a fundamental conflict, I think, between commercial confidentiality and the right for public to actually scrutinise public expenditure.
We asked Capita about its role in Service Birmingham. They told us. Service Birmingham has generated savings of well over £1 billion for the people of Birmingham, while delivering high-quality services. The council's annual spend with Service Birmingham has now reduced to 80 million by 2015-16. The council shares in the success of the business, allowing it to reinvest in protecting frontline services. With question marks growing over the benefits of outsourcing, it's no wonder some authorities are searching for different solutions. I'm heading to Liverpool, where they think they've found one.
Please make sure that you have all of your personal belongings with you at all times.
Until recently, Amy, who I encountered in Sheffield, ran the city's street cleaning. But the council were unhappy with their performance and ended the contract. One of the people behind the decision was Councillor Steve Mumby.
Steve, what was the public's experience with outsourcing? Did they like it? Did they find they got a good service?
They didn't bring bunches of flowers to thank me or the company, no. It was dreadful, particularly with some of our core street services. There was a complete outcry.
After their experiences with outsourcing, the council now runs the services themselves. And they believe the taxpayer is getting better value for their money.
And this isn't a kind of loony left Liverpool council idea. This is a non-ideological thing. You've got conservative councils as well across the country going back to insourcing because it's just simply, as you say, more efficient, better for the customer and better for you.
Absolutely. In fact, we're the ideologues are the people who are arguing that, you know, privatisation is going to be cheaper. If you look at it, the figures don't add up. Even if you did nothing else, by taking stuff back in, you eliminate a management fee. So that can be $1 million or $2 a year on a contract.
By running the street cleaning themselves, the council say they've already saved £1 million.
Only about 48 grand.
Oh, 48 grand.
And by consulting the workers, they say productivity has risen by 50%. So what do they think about the change?
How long have you worked for the street cleaning?
Nearly 28 years.
And how does it compare now to what it was like before?
Well, if you're working with a private firm, their aims aren't the same as what the council wants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could want something totally different.
What were their aims, do you think?
Well, I could imagine their aims is to make as much money as they could.
Is there a sense that you're listened to as opposed to just being told what to do?
Well, nowadays, yeah. Especially with it being the council, like.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for efficiencies as we are ourselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in reality, we're all shareholders.
Yeah, exactly.
We asked Amy about its street cleaning contract in Liverpool. They told us Amy came to a mutual decision with Liverpool City Council to end the street cleaning contract early after both sides had raised concerns about the sustainability of the contract. We are proud of the work we continue to deliver, including maintaining the city's highways infrastructure. Liverpool isn't the only council taking back control of its services. From Cumbria to Essex, many others, Tory, Labour and Lib Dem, are following suit.
Being here in Liverpool today, I've realised that the model of efficiency that we've been following for years, of outsourcing, has been seen to fail. And they're following a new model, which is based around trusting the people who do the job on the ground. You know, the people who do the job are the ones that should be trusted to deliver efficiency, rather than just parachuting someone in.
As Britain tightened its belt, billions of pounds of our money has been handed over to management consultants and outsourcing companies. They say they can deliver efficiency, but when we ask questions, we're told it's not our business to know.
If we're going to truly change our public services, we need to find out the truth. Not just who's spending our money, but how they're doing it.